Good evening, this is Rahul Reddy. We're live here from Houston, Texas. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m., Reddy Neumann PC brings in the immigration news. Along with me is my business partner, Emily Neumann. Emily, immigrants are under a lot of pressure. I mean, COVID situation is there. The U.S. citizens, the green card holders, they are under pressure. Everybody is under pressure right now. The whole world is shaking with the fever of the COVID. But when it comes to the immigrants, though, there's an extra thing. They have to not only worry about the COVID, but there is extra things. They need to worry about their immigration status. What if they get kicked out of the country immediately? What are they going to do with the house, cars? What are they going to do to the school studies? What are all the things that are in between? Now, even if they want to sell the house, nobody's going to buy it right now. I mean, the situation is bad. What do you think, what do you think of this Trump's tweet right now? Do you think it's going to impact the business immigration? If so, what do you think the impact would be?
Yeah, of course, right now we're all just guessing. So I'll start off with that. So we'll try to make some educated guesses here until we actually see what is in the executive order when the text comes out. We do expect there to be some impact on business immigration. Particularly, I think the main impact is going to be on individuals who are outside the U.S. So if you are applying for a visa, planning to come in the future, that may not be an option depending on how this executive order works. Or if you already have a visa stamp and just need to travel in, you may not be able to, depending on how this executive order is written. At this point, it seems to be focusing more on people who are outside the U.S. and blocking them from entering the U.S. I don't know what your thoughts are on people that are in the U.S. Do you think there's any kind of expected impact there?
A lot of questions are coming from Facebook and YouTube on that too, Emily. It's all what we're telling this particular session we are doing is more prediction based on the, based on some of the things that information we have, what we think so is legal, what the Trump administration can do. I completely agree with Emily on that we're expecting this more restriction entering into United States, but not for the people who are already in United States. We're expecting that the extension applications, there is a question that came from Bharat from Facebook, is that will it affect the H1 and H4 extensions? Filing the applications, we are not expecting anything at all. We're not expecting H1s and H4 extensions to be problematic. However, as you know, that premium processing has been suspended, and then we have seen some increased delay in the H4s and EADs. That will continue, but as far as filing the extension is concerned, we do not anticipate any problem. Extension, transfer of the H1B visas, change of status to one to another thing, we're not expecting any problem with this executive order. Emily, what about green card holders? Do you think so that they will be also prevented in coming into United States?
At this point, I would say no. So my thought on this executive order is that it really is just restating what's already happening and giving Trump credit for it, because already people can't get visas at the consulate because consulates are closed to visa interviews. Already people can't enter the United States because most flights are not available. The people that are coming in right now are generally U.S. citizens and green card holders who the State Department is helping get special flights to come back into the U.S. because of the virus. So we already have an almost ban on immigration coming into the United States, but all of that was in response to the pandemic and in an effort to keep people safe and not spread the virus. Now we're talking about suspending entry into the U.S. under an executive order. I mean, that again, we're already at that point. People already can't come in. People already can't get new visas right now. So, probably this is more of a political thing that we're seeing. Trump trying to play to his base to get favor from his party constituents, to help his reelection campaign, to show that he was the one that halted immigration rather than the virus. So those are my thoughts. So that being said, do green card holders, if you already have a green card and you're traveling into the US, are you going to be blocked from coming in? Assuming you can get a flight, my answer right now would be probably not, because you are a permanent resident. You're not an immigrant intending to come in, and you're not a non-immigrant intending to come in. Those under the INA, the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212F, that's the section that gives the president the power to suspend entry for certain individuals for a specified period of time. And the only people he has the power to suspend entry for are immigrants and non-immigrants. Permanent residents don't fall into either of those categories. That's my thought.
Did you say immigrants? I mean, the non-immigrant visa people.
Immigrants and non-immigrants do not, are the people that could be blocked. Green card holders do not fall into either of those categories.
A lot of questions are coming on the family-based applications. Will that cause any problem in filing the family-based adjustment of status applications? Can the H1B extensions can be filed? Can the I-539 change of status can be filed? Can the H4 change of status can be filed? At this point of time, we think so that all these things can be filed. We do not anticipate that the Trump executive order will ban all the things. At this point of time, we are only anticipating that if the person is trying to come into this country, let's say if the person is on a B2 visa and your mom and dad are on a B2 visa, they are trying to visit into the country, we think so that will be blocked. If the person is on H1, H4, or L1, O1, P1, Q1, all other visa people, and they are outside the country, they already have a visa, they're trying to come back into the country, we do not think they will be allowed to come under the executive order. This is just our estimate. We are also expecting the consulate to stop all issuing of the non-immigrant visas temporarily until, and this Trump executive order seems to be only valid for 90-day period. Emily, there is one controversial thing which is there, is for existing H1B employees, it says that the employees have to certify that they are not replacing any of the US worker. Most probably it might be a misreading, maybe the employers have to certify. What do they need to, if the existing employee, let's say he's working at Amazon controlling the supply chain and all those things, does he need to certify that he's not replacing the US worker?
Yeah, unfortunately, we just don't know. I mean, this is just what we're hearing in the news media, people that seem to have access to the text of the order, or at least drafts of it. There's some kind of language in there that suggests that H1Bs have to, prove or declare or certify somehow that they're not displacing U.S. workers. What we don't know is how that will even work. Does the president even have power to cause that to happen? What are the mechanics of it? Are they going to add a question to the LCA? That might be doable, but are they going to make you proactively send something into the Immigration Service to certify that no workers have been displaced? I don't know how that would even work. What kind of form would they use? That seems a bit far-fetched to me, and maybe he might not have authority to do that. It seems more of a Labor Department issue to me.
What's the legal authority? What are the chances the court might upheld this executive order, Emily?
I think if the executive order is clearly tied to a specific reason, that's a reasonable reason, and it is targeted to small groups of people, specific types of people, people in certain circumstances, and for a set period of time, I do think that it will likely be upheld. The president does have that power very clearly under the Immigration and Nationality Act to suspend the entry of people.
But the way the tweet happened looks like it's going to be on all employment immigration, the way that he says. Now, it doesn't look like the specific sectors, not like the people who are working in NASA or working in Boeing, kind of technology companies or something. It looks like very broad thing, though.
That's what it looks like, but again, I think that's just kind of his MO, his typical way he does it is, I'm going to state something really sweepingly on Twitter or in the media, and then when it actually comes out, it turns out that it's the impact was much less than that, and even after that, then we actually get into the mechanics of it, then we get lawsuits involved, and then it gets tailored down even further. So although I think he's saying that he wants to halt all immigration, I don't think that's what's actually going to happen. I think he's going to block people outside the U.S. from coming into the U.S. unless they are considered essential to the supply chain or food or healthcare or something like that. People inside the U.S., I don't think he has the authority to block anything because they're already here. He only has the authority to block entry. People who are already here have already entered, they're already here. And I don't think anyone would say that ICE or DHS has the capability of kicking out all the legal immigrants who are here in the United States. They don't even have the capability of kicking out the undocumented immigrants that are here. There's just not enough resources to accomplish that, and I don't think that they're going to get more resources to kick out legal immigrants.
We're looking some updates for us that are coming up from the White House briefing, but at this point of time, the White House briefing is more overall, not just for the business immigration. There are questions on that too, but we do expect, we don't have a text of the executive order at this point of time to go into more details on that. Unless, we have been blindsided from the time we came in to right now. I don't know if there's any new things that are being done. As of now, the executive order is not there. The briefings are going on, but the details are, the devil is in the details. The details will come in when we get the executive order. Are we doing?
All right, so let's go to a couple of questions. Sunny from Facebook wants to know if this will impact H1B renewals. Again, we're guessing at this point, but our educated guess is the answer is no. If you're in the United States and filing an H1 extension with USCIS, we don't think you'll be impacted. Now, if you later travel and need to get a new visa at the consulate during the executive order, that's where you might be impacted. Another question that I've gotten quite a bit, both here and on the blog, is what's happening with the May 2020 Visa Bulletin, and is its delay related to this executive order? So we have been seeing in recent months the Visa Bulletin coming out later and later. There is nothing out there requiring the Department of State to issue it by the 15th of the month or by any particular time, and they've started taking their sweet time to do it. I don't think the delay in the Visa Bulletin has anything to do with the executive order.
Mayur has this question, Emily, maybe I need your attention to, is there an immigration ban ever happened in the past? What was the situation at that time? Mayur, I've been practicing immigration law for 26 years now. I have definitely not seen it, not in my experience. Yes, there were situations, especially at the time of the Depression between 1920 and 1935 or 38, somewhere around that time. We have seen a ban on immigration at that point of time. Although it seems that at that time the ban seems to be more specifically targeted against the Mexican nationals, which probably the courts are not going to uphold at this point of time. But yes, there were total bans for some period of time between 1920 and 1938, somewhere around that period of time.
Trishna from Facebook wants to know, what about adjustment of status applications for family-based petitions? Again, those are generally, if you're talking about adjustment of status, that means you're filing with USCIS. And what we're talking about, the executive order, may impact people entering the United States. So adjustment of status is you're already here, you're filing with USCIS. At this point, we don't think it's going to be impacted.
Samaya has this question, will it have any impact on the H1B extension? One main thing is that the premium processing has been suspended, but otherwise we are not expecting anything on the executive orders. Kapoor from Facebook asks this question, will PERM timeline be affected? We're not noticing much difference in the PERM timing of adjudicating the PERM applications. In fact, I'm noticing a little bit faster adjudications at the PERM. Most of these employees were already working from home, and they used to take leaves to go to vacation and other things. Now they cancel all vacation. They can do nothing. They can't go shopping. They can't go to a movie. They can't go to a ball game, and so they're working more harder. So we haven't seen much decline in the timing. In fact, it's better in the PERM applications, it's getting better right now.
Abhishek from YouTube wants to know, what about the OPT STEM extension? Can they just deny it? I think the answer to that is no. The OPT STEM extension is created by regulation, and so it can only be eliminated by regulation. So you'd have to go through an entire regulatory process to end the OPT STEM extension. I don't think there's anything within the president's power that would allow him to do so by executive order. And this particular executive order, we think, is again limiting people entering the country, should not impact an OPT STEM extension.
Abhishek has this question that the OPT STEM extension, is that going to be denied? Are they going to deny it? We are not expecting that, Abhishek, that the OPT extension will be denied. Another question that comes out very frequently in this is that when would they resume the premium processing? This is going to take a long time because of the situation what it is right now. Their priority will not be adjudicating the applications and premium processing. If there are any medical professionals that may be in there, they may request their expedited process. They may honor it, especially if they're in the medical profession. You may also, if you are in a supply chain where you are involved in food and other things, you may also request expedited request. I just want to let you know that on April 10th, the government, the USCIS, has relaxed the immigration rules for the agriculture workers. Not that it's like completely they're going against immigrants. I've also seen that they're favoring the immigrants, particularly those people who work in the farm. They did favor those things. Yes, there are some restrictions that are expected. We have been predicting that they're going to come, especially when there is a recession. We have always seen that more enforcement, more restrictions are going to come. This is going to be a more restrictive era that's going to be there. But as far as the OPT extensions or H1 extensions, H4 filings, we don't anticipate any problem at this point of time.
Pavan from YouTube has a valid H1 and it's stamped in his passport, but he's residing in Canada. He wants to know if he'll be able to travel across the border. You may be impacted by this executive order when it comes out. Again, we don't know for sure if it is only blocking people that need to get visas or if it's blocking people from entering on those visas, even if they have a visa already. But it's possible for a 90-day period that you may not be able to enter the country.
Arun has been announcing that the temporary visas will be excluded. That's what we have been, Trump just announced, that's what he's telling, that's what we were anticipating also, that the people who are about to enter into this country, we're anticipating that they will not be allowed in. Right now there is not much flights are going, not many people are coming, but when the flights will be resumed also, there will be a temporary hold for these people to not enter into this country.
Trishna from Facebook wants to know any idea about how long the executive order will take into effect. So typically, so far, when we've seen Trump issue an executive order, it's effective immediately. What we've heard from the media so far today, the few people that seem to have some advanced knowledge of what's going on, is it sounds like it might be a 90-day suspension at this point with a possible extension later.
Karthik has this interesting question. If the borders are going to be closed, how can we get outside the country? What is the scenario under which? Good question, Karthik. We are not anticipating none whatsoever at all to not allow you to go outside the country. If you're outside the country, you want to come in, there will be restrictions that we are expecting them to put it. But we are not anticipating any restriction whatsoever at all if you want to go to your home country. Do you expect anything like that, Navneet?
No, I don't. Another question about non-immigrant visas. If that's stopped, can I do a transfer of my SEVIS to another university? I would not expect that to be impacted at all by this executive order. Again, we're expecting this to be impacting people outside the U.S. who are wanting to come into the U.S., not those that are already here.
When will the executive order get published? Well, surprising, we are in a different era than what I have noticed in all the government. You know, government policies and certain things will be announced in a proper order, not in the middle of a night on a Twitter. They did announce the things in the middle of the night, Twitter, and we got so many calls. We have conducted a conference call in the midnight yesterday, and they're like, within 5 minutes notice, we had about 340 people coming into the conference call. At this point of time, Ramdev, I cannot tell you at what time it will be published. The anticipated time normally will be probably by end of this week or maybe early parts of the next week. Before they publish an executive order, it has to go to the legal department. It has to go to a lot of different checks and scrutinies before it's been published. So probably they may have a draft that they are circulating around, but it still has to go through a lot of different things before it's published. But it definitely will not be after 50 days or 60 days. It'll be by end of this week or early part of the next week.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people, this has been discussed in his press conference. Several people have commented that it looks like this is specifically targeting green card applicants, people applying for green cards from outside the United States, and at this point they're talking about a 60-day ban on that. So this may be impacting way less than what we originally thought.
Yeah, the green card applications, we already anticipated all visa applicants, including immigrant visa applications, to be put on hold until the things are cleared. We're expecting not just the green card, even though it's not been announced. We're expecting the non-immigrant visa restrictions also for people who are applying for B2s, even getting the visas and also getting into the country after they get the visas. They may suspend all these visas until a particular period of time.
Different topic. Amit from YouTube wants to know about the stimulus checks that are being sent out right now and wants to know if this could be considered a public charge. No, it is not. The stimulus check is actually a tax credit. It's a credit back to you of taxes you've already paid. It's an advance on your tax refund that you'll get next year. So it's not really a benefit. It's not welfare. It's not income. It is actually a refund of your taxes that you're getting early. So no public charge issue there at all. Abhishek from Facebook wants to know, okay, if this bill, this executive order is only applying to green cards, how does this affect the PERM? Does it apply to PERM? No, it won't at all apply to PERM. We're talking about people who are applying for their green card at the consulate outside the U.S. Those are the only people that apply for an immigrant visa. The PERM process is inside the U.S., completely separate, has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't really have anything to do. It's not an immigrant visa application. It's just one step that takes you to that process. But it should not have any impact on the PERM process right now.
We're not expecting, a lot of questions are coming, the repeated questions are there. Will the transfer applications can be applied? We are not anticipating any problem in H1B transfer applications. Is it advisable to switch the jobs right now? That's a judgment call that you have to make. Depending on when your H1B is expiring, is it going to be a consulting company or a direct company? It has to be, it has to be a judgment call for you.
Question from, I think it was YouTube, can we expect employment authorization to be extended? No, I would not expect that at all. Again, nothing the Trump administration has done has relaxed any of the immigration rules. Don't expect that they're going to automatically extend your stay or your work authorization. You need to make sure that you're continuing to maintain status. If you fall out of status or if you're running out of time and aren't able to file an extension, you need to look at filing a change of status to B2 if you can't exit the country on time.
Questions on the visa application where people are stuck outside the country. Can they come into United States? Most probably, we are anticipating that executive order will block them coming into United States. Some people are asking the question, I'm an Indian national, I'm an H1B, now I cannot travel into United States. Can I sit down in India and work there? Absolutely you can. You're an Indian national. You're subject to Indian law. The government at this point of time does not recognize cyberspace as a space. Neither the US government nor the Indian government recognize cyberspace as a space. So if you're sitting in India, the question you should ask is, You're an Indian national. Can you work? Absolutely, you can. So that is the thing. So the question also applies reversely too. If an Indian national who is here on H4 visa and doesn't have an employment authorization, can they work remotely in India? The answer is no, because the governments do not recognize cyberspace as a space. If you're sitting in the country and working, it's not authorized.
So Rose from YouTube wants to know, what about new H-1B petitions that were selected in the lottery this year? So at this point, it appears the executive order should have zero impact on those. Your employer should be able to file on your behalf by June 30th if you are selected, and they'll be processing those hopefully by October 1st.
So at this point of time, if they're selected in the quota, we have time until June 30th. We do not anticipate anybody not allowing to file the H-1B.
No, I don't expect that to happen at all.
Okay. And is there a chance that a lot of questions asked, is there a chance that they're going to extend the June 30th deadline? We are under the presumption at this point of time that they are not going to extend the June 30th deadline for which you need to file a H-1B application. Reddy Neumann PC has been telling from the time the COVID started that more restrictions are going to come. I mean, a lot of people were under the presumption that, oh, we're in the COVID situation, things are very bad, the government is going to favor the things so that people don't get into trouble. Although I like the concept, that is the concept we wanted, we advocate, but we were expecting more tougher interpretations of the law and maybe some executive orders. Also, it was already expected to come. There's going to be more stricter enforcement of the visa applications right now than what it was before.
All right, so just kind of give a quick overview. Do you think this is going to impact H-1B petitions, whether it's a transfer, cap subject, amendment, or extension filed with USCIS?
No, none.
Is it going to affect STEM OPT extensions filed with USCIS?
We are not expecting it.
Is it going to impact PERM applications filed with DOL?
No, it should not impact that at all.
I-140 petitions filed with USCIS?
No, it will not impact. However, I take one caution. A lot of these applications, the premium processing has been suspended. We anticipate the premium processing to be suspended for a little bit longer time.
Yeah, so really at this point, if we're talking
about... So Emily, what is affected
Right,
here?
That's what I was just going to say. What we're talking about is someone who has an I-130 or an I-140 petition on their behalf, and they are consular processing it, meaning that they're outside the U.S. and they will apply for their green card or their immigrant visa at the consulate. Those are the people that this executive order seems to be stopping. They'll be suspended for 60 days.
People also were expecting that the non-immigrant visas that were been already issued and who are outside the country, they may not be able to come inside the country unless they're healthcare workers or maybe in the supply chain with regards to the food. That is one of the other anticipations that I'm thinking. The people who are on B2 visa, B1 visa that are intending to visit the United States, most probably there will be a restriction that they will not be allowed to come into the country. These are expected. The questions are all repeated, guys. We answered the questions that no, existing people within the United States are not getting affected. It's only the people who are about to come from outside the country is what we are expecting the restrictions to be. The extensions, amendments, transfers should be going through. However, please, there is no premium processing right now.
Karthik from Facebook says that New Jersey State is highlighting that people are eligible to submit their unemployment benefit applications if they're out of work. Can an H-1B employee file for unemployment benefits in New Jersey? Generally, the answer is no. For H1, L1, TN, any kind of visa that is tied to a specific employer and a petition that's filed on behalf of that person, you don't have an unrestricted right to work in the United States. That's what you need to be able to apply for unemployment. So if you have a restricted employment authorization, meaning you're tied to a specific employer or you have to comply with certain terms and conditions in order to be considered maintaining that employment authorization, you're generally not eligible for unemployment benefits.
Will it affect the F1 visa people who are outside the country coming into the United States? It may affect, there is a possibility that it may affect the people who are outside the country who already got the visa to come into the United States. Some questions on, will the F1 visa people be allowed to get the stamping in the United States? We are anticipating that there will be some restriction with regards to the timing at which they will get the stamping, because they may say a 90-day moratorium that you may not be getting any F1 visas. That is expected. That is what we are expecting.
Adarsh from YouTube has his mother here on a visitor visa that is expiring soon and wants to know if he can still file an extension for her, or does the executive order block that? You can still file that extension for her, no issues as of right now.
Abhishek has this question, will it affect the 221G application? The H1B has been gone, his visa application has gone to 221G. Yes, they may put a moratorium on issuing the H1B visas in the consulate to a particular timing. It may be 60 days, it may be 90 days. These are all expected things we are thinking about.
Avanandan wants to know about dependents. Will they be able to travel like on an H4 if the primary applicant is already in the U.S.? From what people are telling us during this about what the president is saying, he's talking about immigrant visas being blocked at the consulate, which would suggest that non-immigrants such as H4 applicants should be able to travel. But there is a possibility that he could restrict travel into the country for H4 as well.
Question is, can the H4 EAD people who lost the job, can they apply for the unemployment benefit? The answer is yes, you can. Another question from Meenal from Facebook is, the biometrics are being stopped right now. Are they going to resume it? What's going to happen with the H4 application? There's a good chance that the biometrics will not be resumed pretty soon. Because of the biometrics, we're expecting more delays on the H4s also.
Ravi Teja wants to know if it'll be a problem if the salary is reduced when on an H1 visa. So we're hearing a lot about furloughs and salary or pay cuts and that sort of thing. And that is different for H1B workers. H1B workers and their employers have to comply with the LCA requirement. So on the petition, the company would have stated a certain salary, and they're required to pay that salary every single pay period. They can't reduce the pay one pay period and then 3 months later increase the pay to make up for it. That is considered a violation. I think a lot of employers that don't work with a lot of H1Bs, maybe their whole company, they only have 1 or 2 people, may not be aware of this. So you may need to educate them that furlough is not an option for an H1B worker, a pay cut is not an option, or a reduction in hours is not an option unless an amendment is filed first.
Good question is that if the dependents are here, H4 dependents are in United States, and if the H1B person is outside the country, will they allow the H1B person to come into United States? There is a good chance that they may put a restriction on this H1B person to come into United States. There's a good chance. We're expecting the executive order most probably by the end of this week, so we will be able to give more details after that.
Let's see, where did I see that? Someone had just asked, their I-94 had expired back in January. They had an extension petition that was pending that they just found out has been denied and want to know what the options are. So when your I-94 has expired and then an extension has been denied or a transfer has been denied, it does immediately put you out of status from the date after the decision date, and you do begin accruing unlawful presence as well. So if the issue is for many people where there's these travel restrictions into the U.S., there's travel restrictions to their home country as well. So if you're not able to exit the U.S., you need to look into filing a nunc-pro-tunc change of status to B2, explaining the situation that due to the extraordinary circumstances of the denial and the fact that you can't leave, you are filing this application and want USCIS to overlook within their discretion the fact that you accidentally overstayed because of that denial.
Jitendra Chowdhury from Facebook is suggesting us that he's telling that the president is giving a clue that the executive order will not be applicable to the legal immigrants inside the country. That is what we are expecting too, Jitendra. That is what we are anticipating. We did not hear the briefing, but we are expecting that because we have to come. Our live session and President live session came at the same time, so we could hear what he was stating, but that's what we are expecting.
So again, we expect this executive order should not have an impact on H4 EADs, H1B extensions, H1Bs filed in the CAP, F1 OPT extension, change of status inside the U.S. If you're in the U.S. and you're maintaining your status and you're filing something with USCIS, we expect that you should not be impacted by this executive order.
Repeated questions with regards to the non-immigrant visa people who traveled outside the country and trying to come back into United States, we may expect restrictions. What about the green card holders who traveled outside the country, Emily?
About the executive order?
Yeah.
I think that if you already have a green card, you should be allowed back into the U.S. assuming you can get a flight. I think that this executive order is geared towards people who are applying for their green card at the consulate right now, not those that already received their green cards.
Question from Tejaswini, because of this executive order, will the H1B petition will be denied for 2021? No, we're not expecting just denial because of the executive order. There may be a lot more scrutiny than the normal scrutiny, but we're not expecting a straight denial just because of the COVID situation.
Nilesh from YouTube wants to know if filing an L1 extension with USCIS is the only option right now, or you can apply at the consulate. So I'm assuming this is if your employer has a blanket approval. Typically, for those that have a blanket, it is preferred to apply for the extension at the consulate outside the U.S. where you don't have to deal with RFEs and all of the main tons of documents that USCIS expects you to submit. The problem is right now you can't get a visa interview at most consulates. So we're forced, if your L1 is expiring soon, we're forced to file with USCIS. If you have time and the consulate might reopen in time for you to get a visa interview, then you might still be able to apply at the consulate instead.
H1B stamped, but he did not enter into the United States. Will it be a problem for that person to enter into the United States? We're anticipating in the executive order they might put some restrictions on moratorium for a particular period of time that they cannot come into the United States. But my suggestion is that if you are outside the country, you can work. I mean, there's nothing prohibiting you to work from outside the country. So if you're allowed to work, please work, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Another question from Facebook on unemployment. Can someone who's on OPT apply for unemployment? I think the answer here is no. So the way I look at it, as I said earlier, is do you have an unrestricted right to work in the United States? So if whatever status you're in, if you could go out tomorrow and get a job at McDonald's flipping burgers without impacting your status, then you probably are eligible for unemployment. Someone who's on OPT, you are tied to a job that's directly related to your field of study. You can't just go out and get any job. You could not go to McDonald's tomorrow and start working and be considered to be maintaining your OPT status. So for that reason, OPT would likely not be eligible for unemployment.
Hari Krishna has this question, repeated question again, is that can the parents travel on B2, B1 visa into United States? Most probably the executive order will put a moratorium not allowing the B1, B2s coming into the United States.
Yeah, I think that, as of right now, what we're reading through your comments, because we're not able to see the live press conference, is that this is looking to restrict immigrant visas from being issued at the consulate, those who have an I-130 or I-140 being processed outside the U.S., but that doesn't mean that it can't be expanded later. And the president does have the power to block entry for non-immigrants as well. So even if right now we're only talking about immigrant visas being blocked for the next 60 days, that could be expanded to a longer time period or expanded to other types of applicants coming into the U.S.
Can there be more executive orders on this? Well, first is there is no executive order as of right now when we are speaking. But when the executive order comes in, it could be in one order. It could have a series of orders. It can have like 4 or 5 executive orders. We'll have to see the details. Most probably by tomorrow is what they've been telling, but at the most by end of this week.
Yeah, I'm seeing a couple of comments that he's saying that there's more coming, a second one at least coming beyond this first one on immigrant visas.
Can the H4s be allowed to come? There's a good chance there will be a moratorium on H4s not being allowed to come into the United States temporarily. This is just all. Emily, what are all these things? Is it temporary or is it going to be forever?
Yeah, the executive order has to be for a specific time period. So this first one, it sounds like initially we were thinking 90 days, but now from what we're hearing, it's maybe only 60 days. It, of course, could be extended, but I think that this is not something permanent. The president does not have the power to permanently block all immigration into this country.
Bharat has this question, can the I-94 extension on a B2 visa, can it be applied online or do I have to do it in the mail? You can apply online, Bharat, absolutely no problem. It's easier application to file an online application. However, one caveat is that if there are 2 members of the family, like the wife and husband are there is no way that you can add 2 people into one application in the online application. However, if you file manually, that you can club both wife and husband and the children unmarried under 21. You can add them into one application. That's the only difference by filing online as compared to filing manually.
Following up on the B2 question, Vineet wants to know how long the processing time is if you file that B2 change of status online or with USCIS. Right now, before the big rush that we're expecting to happen, the processing times were anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 to 14 months for processing the I-539 application. I don't expect that to get any faster. More than anything, it will probably get slower because more and more people are going to be forced to have to file this I-539 in order to continue their stay in the country.
Question that comes is that my kid is a U.S. citizen, I got my extension denied, can I not stay here because I can't leave my kids in the United States? Legally, based on the kids, you cannot stay in the United States here just because your kid is a U.S. citizen. It will not cause, and it will not allow you to anchor into this country.
Keshav wants to know if finding or changing jobs will be more difficult because of the executive order. The immigration process of it should not change at all because, again, we're only talking about people entering the United States at this point. It may be possible that employers are less likely to be hiring right now or may not be ready to file immigration applications on behalf of people. So you might find it more difficult to get the application filed or get the job or the employer to sponsor you, but the actual process should not be changing.
Can my wife travel on 485 EAD card? I'm assuming that it's an advance parole. I would recommend to avoid the trip right now, definitely, because they may put some restrictions on it. I don't want your wife to go outside and get stuck and then that's it. And that's the end of the green card process for her. No, don't try to make any trips right now outside the country. Mostly the same questions again and again coming, Emily, so I want to discuss one more time. Can the H1B extension be, do you anticipate any problem with the H1B extension?
No.
Do you anticipate any problem with the H1B amendment?
No.
Do you anticipate any problem with the H1B transfer application?
No.
Do you anticipate any problem with the L1 or H4 extensions?
No.
Do you anticipate any problem with the PERM or I-140 application?
Nope.
Well, so most of the questions that we are asking is the same thing that are repeated again, guys. So that's the reason we are insisting on what we've been telling all along. We're not anticipating any problem with the OPT and STEM extensions at this point of time. They will continue to adjudicate those applications. Yes, there's a little bit time delay on those things. but we are not anticipating any problem on that. Sakib has this question, any problem on the 485 interview? Yes, 485 interviews are suspended right now. That suspension can be extended because it's nothing emergency, so they may extend the 485 interview. Another thing is that 485 interview requires that the person meet the officer physically, and that is what everybody is trying to avoid, is to have a social distancing, and there you have to go to the security, you have to go through all those different things. So they are trying to avoid that. So that is going to be suspended for a period of time.
Priya from Facebook is currently on H1, but previously had an H4 and EAD, and that EAD is still valid. She wants to know if she applies for a change of status back to H4, can she start using that EAD to work immediately? Unfortunately, no. Because you're not in H4 status. Just filing the change of status to H4 doesn't put you in H4 status until it's actually approved. So you have to maintain your H1 status. If you want to work, you can work for the H1 employer while it's pending. And then once your H4 is approved, you can work for any other employer using your H4 EAD. When do you anticipate premium processing to resume again? You know, where things are right now, I would not expect it in the near future. Maybe this fall would be the earliest. I think it really depends on what happens with this virus, when we get a vaccine, and also what happens with the U.S. economy. All of that will impact whether and when premium processing is available again.
The questions are repeating, Emily. Should we go over one more time and close the meeting, or you're getting new questions? Because all the questions are the same questions.
Yeah, I think
we see a number of people who are getting participated is way higher than we normally have. We understand that you are going through much more pain than the normal American citizens because you are under the non-immigrant visa. Please tune in for every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. We are there. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to the Immigration Gulf and also rnlawgroup.com. We bring in the news that is accurate, that is instead of hyping the things up. So please tune in every week to come in, though.
Yeah, I think that's really important that so much around immigration causes fear and stress and anxiety. And a lot of that is because things are over sensationalized in the media and hyped up. I mean, obviously we had a tweet last night that made it sound like the world was ending, but it turns out it's really not as bad as we all were thinking. And so just try to stay calm, try to get the real information, try not to just look at the headlines that are out there, because there are some headlines that are just completely false.
Especially we have seen the Indian newspapers, it's completely wrong. They're saying they're banning India, they're banning the people who come completely. That is, most of those things are turned out to be not true. Imagine that, 2 weeks before, Emily, they were telling that, the media was telling that actually the other ways. They're telling that automatically employment authorization is extended for 240 days. A lot of other things they have been extended, and we told at that point of time, this administration is going to be more stricter. It's not going to be any looser. Now all of a sudden hell breaks loose. Yesterday at about 11 o'clock, people started calling on the cell phone. Emily, me, and other lawyers of our office have conducted a spot conference call, and 336 people came in with no notification to anybody. We just put it on 1 or 2 WhatsApp group, and that's it. It got circulated. So we are there for you guys at any time. We do have a daily conference call. And you subscribe to the Immigration Girl blog. Emily updates it as fast as she can when things come out. We understand you much better. We know your problems. We know what non-immigrant visa is. We know what an extension is. We know what an RFE is. We deal day in and day out. So we understand the problems much better so that we can present it in a way that you understand it better for your needs. And we also understand the law because we are lawyers, immigration lawyers. So please tune in to us frequently. If you are here on a non-immigrant visa, what we recommend is that every week what we present, if you listen, that most probably will cover all the things what you need to know. Of course, we know that you are covering your looking into other news too, which are more sensationalized, but ours is more, we're presenting it, we understand your problem, we understand the immigration, we understand all the things, and we present it every week once for 1 hour so that you can get the grasp of the things. Emily, what else do you expect people going through? I mean, they are going through the emotions right now. You're telling that more executive orders are expected to come in. Do you think so the executive orders are going to be in favor of the immigrants or not going to be in favor of immigrants?
Yeah, definitely not in favor of the immigrants. You know, anytime that we see large numbers of U.S. workers out of jobs, unemployment increasing, things do tend to get more difficult for immigrants. So certainly we're not expecting things to get easier. At the same time, the president does not have unlimited power to just block everything. So just know that, take what you read with a grain of salt, try to get the real information, go to the text of what's actually been announced rather than what some media or reporters' summarization is of what's being announced, and just try to keep calm at this point.
Some Joha Sajja is asking, what WhatsApp group are you referring to? I'm going to put that in the Facebook, guys, at the bottom of it, and also on the YouTube. There are some immigrant groups that are there. I will put that link out in the Facebook and YouTube down. It may take a day or so for me to put it, but I will put those links after getting permission from the group owners. One more time, I want to summarize the things, Emily. Mm-hmm. We want to summarize the things. A lot of people are asking again, and we did it a couple of times. One more time, more questions are coming in. The panic mode people are in right now. Do you expect H1B extensions to cause any problem at this point of time? Can they still file the H1B extensions?
Yes.
Can they file the H1B amendments?
Yes.
Can they file the H1B transfers?
Yes.
Can they file the H4 and EAD extensions?
Yes.
Can they file L1, O1, P1 applications right now who are in the United States? Okay. Anything else that you...
Yeah, at this point, the impact is quite minimal. Obviously not for those who are actually impacted, but what I mean is for the vast number of people that watch this broadcast, we tend to work with high-skilled immigrants who are here on non-immigrant visas and waiting in the green card backlog. You should not see an impact due to this executive order at this time.
Anything else, Emily?
I think that is about it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned. I'll continue answering questions on immigrationgirl.com and also on Twitter. If you follow me at immigrationgirl, I do try to answer questions that people are asking on there as well.
Thank you guys for tuning in.